This record is really, I think, as far as the content, is more of a review of my experience doing this over the last 10 plus years, really, because people might or might not know that the first record was effectively pretty well on its way before the band got together. So yeah, but yeah, I think it's an important record for me insofar as it's sort of it was done largely by myself, which is not entirely different than the other records. The new one, some might think is quite different than what happened before, but in terms of synthesizers or anything like that. But the fact is, the distinction between Clap Your Hands when I began and anything else that I would work on was that Clap Your Hands, say I would be the one with the synthesizers. So to me, it's not that far off. If people were to think about the first record, and Upon This Tidal Wave of Young Blood is a synth-based song, Over and Over Again is a synth-based song, Yellow Country Teeth is a synth-based song. So to me, like, it's just different synths. Matt from the National happens to be a friend still, and seemed like a good fit for that particular song. And Kid Koala I've been hanging out with a couple months before, and also I just asked him, and I liked what he did, and I knew it was more than just like your typical DJ stuff, so I wanted people to see it. Yeah. It's been it's been pretty much the same the whole time. I mean, I go home, work on the material, and then I go to a studio and do as much as I possibly can, and then we have a record that comes out as a result. I mean, it's the same thing for everything. There's never been that much of a band dynamic. It's really been, it's a fairly isolated process, and it hasn't changed. I made 2 other records, and those were also pretty much the same process, except I probably let go a little bit of the overall scope of the albums when I did the solo record, for example, and another one called Flashy Python with some friends, and The Walkman and Dr. Dog and Man Man, bands like that in Philadelphia. Clap Your Hands has been more, I've been trying to get a hold of the entire album and the entire concept for each song, down to even down to the drum parts for a lot of it. Living room shows, to me, are an opportunity to show people what the songs are like stripped down. I mean, it takes me a second to get them correct, because the approach for the album is in fact either starting with drums or starting with keyboard or starting with bass or something like that, and then building the song from there on Pro Tools. So some of these songs I'm approaching totally new, like, for example, Upon This Tidal Wave of Young Blood, I probably started that with a drum beat and then keyboards and then bass, but now playing it on acoustic, I have to figure out how to pull it all back and actually make it stand up. Some of them, on the other hand, were written as like singer-songwriter type songs and then fleshed out into the band. So I think it they're a little easier that way. But in any case, to do the living room shows for me is an opportunity to get closer to the people that I think have been pushed away by virtue of just doing club shows for the last 10 years. Not pushed away exactly, but club shows can be impersonal. Festivals can be impersonal. I like to meet the people and not think that I'm just playing for a mass of people, but actually that they are individuals. I like to imagine that that's the case. Well, I guess, working in isolation as I do on an album, I mean, basically my existence is made up of working on songs, trying to work on the business end of things, being independent, that's sort of what you have to do, and then getting to a studio, putting the songs together, and getting out to clubs where usually you'll meet the staff and occasionally one or two other people. So to do the living room show, it's a very isolated bubble that you're in doing this. To do living room shows sort of breaks down that barrier. And I've been trying to figure out a way to bridge the gap between myself and the audience for a long time. As effective and helpful, I guess, as social media can be, there is still that distance to me. So you have to go out there and actually, knock on doors, as it were. Regarding influences, I understand that a lot of people have speculated in the past, and I guess I've been surprised by some of it, because some of it I've never even heard before. But I think the big guns for me, Brian Eno. If anybody who knows Brian Eno's career should know that it's fairly obvious that I lean on him a bit. Robert Wyatt is another one. Let's see. I mean, like off the top of my head, I'm thinking of 100 different bands right now, but I'm trying to think of the most influential for this particular project. Gary Newman, like bits and pieces of his career, and Tom Waits has always been up there. So I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, those are some of the bigger names. Talking Heads, of course. But that's the thing. People shouldn't get carried away, obviously, about what influences any record in particular. But people should have some idea of where it's coming from, and resign themselves to understand that it might not be trying to sound like X, Y, or Z. It might just be incorporating X, Y, or Z. So that's kind of where I'm coming from, because I don't sit down and listen to a Brian Eno record and say, wouldn't it be great to put it together a song like this or an album like this? I mean, it never actually happens that way. But I think as far as if I had to take a guess as to who probably seeps in the most, it might be him or Tom Waits.
It's a beautiful world. It's a beautiful world. It's a beautiful world. It's a beautiful world. It's a beautiful world.
Current influences I struggle with from time to time because I don't know too many current acts. I do like a lot of what Dave Fridman. We worked with Dave Fridman on this last record, who also did our second record. And so I studied up on what he was working on, and I liked a lot of it. Tame Impala, MGMT's last record, I think is really good. Flaming Lips stuff is good. I think Only Run is maybe the best song I've written since I started out. The next, Your Advice, is a little less obviously a really good song. And I'm talking, that's like a songwriter, like I think somebody who's a songwriter might be able to ascertain, but I think it's a little bit of a dark horse on that record because of how we produced it. Yeah, it would only run, and I think Impossible Request is a really good song. Cover Up's good too. And I guess I think the one. Sorry, I have a lot of trouble with self-promotion. I mean, I like them all, and I have a lot of trouble. People have asked in the past, well, what's the single? I have no idea, what people are gonna like more than anything else.